So firstly, a very good afternoon to everybody and welcome along to our Business Spotlight interviews. My name's Ron Maycock and I'm the owner of Action Coach Castleford and Business Performance UK. And I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by Tim Guest. Very good afternoon to you, Tim.
Hi. Nice to see you again.
Brief and to the point. So we'll be hearing a lot more from Tim in a few moments, but Tim is the founder and director of a business called Contedia. And to say we will be learning a lot more in a few moments about that. So before we do that, though, I really wanted to just explain what the purpose of these interviews actually is. So we're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. They've each got their own stories to tell. They're each on their own journeys. And these interviews help us showcase their businesses, their achievements, and ultimately maximize their exposure, all in the name of abundance. The more people that actually hear about businesses like Contedia, then the more business will be transacted. And it's for benefit of businesses not just in the Yorkshire region, but right across the UK as well. And I do happen to know that they do some international stuff as well as that. So it's not even just in the UK. And these interviews do go out onto an international audience. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tim just to tell us a little bit more about Contedia. So tell us all about it.
Okay, so as you know quite well, Ron, we're a technology business. We were founded in 2001 by myself and my brother. We came from slightly different technology backgrounds, albeit my university career and early career was in industrial design and engineering. And we came together and founded this small business, which from day one has had effectively two distinct disciplines to it. And they've remained with us throughout the last 22 years. So we've got an IT MSP side to the business where we provide services and support to SMEs across the sort of the north of England, the M62 corridor, give or take. That's obviously logistical practicalities that dictate that area of the business. But then again, from day one, my brother was a developer, a software developer and a web developer. And we're talking 2001. So we're talking before any kind of web applications and software as a service was a thing. But we set up that side of the business and we were developing some quite innovative solutions when you were still clicking and waiting for things to refresh. We were developing software even as far back as 2001, 2002. So over the years, we've just continued with those two disciplines. We've attracted a comfortable customer base on both sides of the business. Very different customers in some cases, but as you can imagine, technology crosses all sorts of boundaries. So we've got many customers who are actually a customer of both sides of the business and benefit accordingly.
Absolutely. And where's the name come from then? Because it's not... I don't know. It's not naturally Latin or something like that, or when?
Yeah, no. If you look back at Companies House history, you'll see that we originally started as Perfect Penguin IT, and the Penguin element was a Linux, sort of a nod to Linux. But over the years, the sort of the jokes became a little bit too much from customers, so we decided to try and give ourselves a name which was a little bit more professional in our minds. Even though the penguin scenario, some of our customers still call us penguins because they remember us. But Contedia is basically it's an amalgamation of the word, the phrase, the convergence of technology and new media, Contedia. Because back in the day when we rebranded, 2006, I think, new media was what people were referring to web technologies as. So just a combination of technology and new media in one business was our idea.
Right, and it's unique enough to get people to ask where it came from, I guess. So otherwise, I wouldn't have asked for it. So
yeah, occasionally. Although I do remember that when we first rebranded, one of our really good customers, the managing director there, said, "Contedia sounds like tedious," and that's stuck with me ever since.
It's how we associate with different words.
Yeah,
parts of words is amazing, but each one down to their own perceptions of what it means to them. So, and you said that you've been going for sort of 22 years, and you highlighted your sort of background then. So, on a day-to-day, what are you involved with at the moment then, Tim? What's your main involvement in the business and which side, or is it both?
Generally, it's an administrative role that I have nowadays. I was technical at one point in my career. I was fee earning for the business, but as the business grew and the underlying administration of the business increased, it became a full-time role. So, we're not a sales focused business in the sense of we don't have dedicated salespeople. So that's one part of my role, sort of networking and finding new opportunities, speaking to businesses consultatively, because much of what we do is a consultative sale process. But so much of our business is complex. We're a complex kind of business, so the administration we have to manage is quite complex because we're registering and managing domain names and SSL certificates by the dozen for clients. So we've got maybe thousands that we manage for our clients as part of our overarching service. So just administration of things that are very low value, it creates a lot of throughput in our department. So a lot of my time nowadays is spent trying to work on our systems, our internal systems and processes.
There's running the business side of the delivery, and then looking at the commercial opportunities and moving it forward. And
that's right.
In terms of you said you've obviously got the MSP and the development side of the business, two unique offerings, some overlaps. What's your sort of split at the moment? Is it 50-50? Is it slightly more weighted towards one side rather than the other?
I would say from an income and gross profit point of view, it's probably roughly 50-50. But it's made up in very different ways, because on the IT MSP side of the business, yes, we have projects every year. Clients are replacing infrastructure and things of that nature, or they're implementing new systems. A lot of the work we've been doing this year has been focused around customers who have to improve their security from a cyber security and insurance perspective. So we've done a lot of two-factor authentication implementation, firewalls, VPNs, those kind of things. But generally speaking, the majority of the income on that side of the business is through recurring annual support agreements. So we are an outsourced IT department to our clients. The kind of clients we work with are in that band where they don't have internal IT, but they certainly need continuous IT. They can't just call on someone on an ad hoc basis. So we take that role and we take it very seriously. The other side of the business, the digital side, we do have recurring income from that side. We do have recurring support agreements for software and systems that we've developed, but most of the income is from the current and ongoing projects at any given time. Some of those projects are continuous, and long may they continue. We've been working for some of our clients non-stop for 15 years, literally, and they invest continuously in the development of their systems. But then other things are very much, the projects that come and they go, and we continue to support them, but there isn't a great deal of ongoing development after that.
So the MSP side is quite a common term or terminology within that sector. So you're doing the managed service provision. You're working with, as you say, the outsourced IT department for a business. That's probably quite easy for most people watching this to get their head around as to exactly what that is. The digital side, or development, as I was referring to, sort of more to it. Do you want to expand on what that is in terms of the type of projects that this might look like? Upgrading systems over 15 years is one thing, but specifically, what are we talking when we're talking about these upgraded systems?
Yeah, so the digital services side of our business it's not unique, but it's an area of the tech industry that is little known and understood by most of the clients. When we first meet these clients and the prospective clients, they're not familiar with the kind of industry we work in. So we don't resell any third-party software. We don't resell any CRMs or ERP systems. That's not something we did from day one. Neither do we develop pretty websites, marketing-based websites. That's, you know, we have done them and we can do them, and we work with either the customer's design team, marketing team, or we'll subcontract to some trusted designers that we use. But our focus has always been on developing web technology or desktop technology that is custom and unique, and it's usually business process applications. So much of what we do is still web-based. It runs in a browser, but depending on who the audience is and whether it's on premises for a customer or it is widely accessible through some sort of customer login, you could sort of term it as being, you know, is it an intranet, an extranet? Is it a website? Is it an application? The boundaries get very grey depending on the end user and the purpose of the software or the system.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to work with businesses who are very heavily data and information led, which is most businesses these days. But we tend to find there are certain industries that either struggle more than others with managing their internal systems and their internal data flows and information flows, or we work with businesses that, you know, they probably do have CRM, they have accounting systems, they may even have ERP systems, but a simple glance around their business shows that they're using Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets like they're going out of fashion. They're trying to run business critical processes through ad hoc spreadsheets and processes that they've created with tools that they have to hand, using the knowledge and the experience of the colleagues in the business. But they're doing that because the back office systems they've got are too rigid, or they're simply not contextual to their business. So we work with customers who recognize that and who need to improve and make efficiencies within the business. So they recognize, you know, Dave and Jody are using spreadsheets with largely the same information in, but entirely independently of each other for their different roles. And there are discrepancies in the value of the data and what they're trying to do with it. And when Julie's off on holiday, nobody knows how to manage Julie's workload because her processes are based around things she's created.
Mm-hmm.
So we work with customers to try and consolidate the knowledge in the business and turn it into customized applications, sometimes really small applications that just affect 2 or 3 people in one department. Other times it starts like that, but the customer sees the potential to grow it across departments, sharing the fundamental core of the data, but leveraging it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got clients who, for example, our best client on paper, if you like, is an automotive manufacturer, and you know they had exactly that issue 10 years ago or so, where they had this transactional website which serviced their international client base, ordering products online on account. That was loosely hooked into their CRM system, and then they would update the products on the database from a selection of access databases that they'd cobbled together over many years.
Mm-hmm.
But what they didn't have is consistency in managing their data, because they had their ERP system that manages, you know, their client interactions, the sale of products, the discounts, the things like that. They had the CRM, which they were using the way most companies use CRMs, which is they only really scratching the surface of what a CRM might do, but they're still using it in a fundamental way to manage customers. And so we started working with them to, first of all, take all these ad hoc databases and spreadsheets that they had of tens and tens of thousands of lines of product and consolidate them into one robust database where the relationships between the data and the duplications were all managed, and errors were mitigated through certain methodologies that we used. And then we looked at the business with them, and over the years we've simply looked at what they don't have available as systems they can use for each department, and we've sort of built front ends onto this database that actually give them functionality.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, that database powers their current website, which we developed for them, which is a very data and functional heavy website. So, you know, what a general visitor might see is, you know, a dozen or so pages before you then have to log in. You have to be an existing customer. So it then hooks in, we hook the website into their CRM. That dictates what level of access the customer gets. It also records what the customer is doing as well, validate who they are, because they're quite the data they have in their marketplace is quite sensitive, so they don't want people using the website for purposes other than to do business with them. They certainly don't want them being used for market research. So we hook it into the CRM, we hook it into the bespoke software that we've created for the data element, and then we hook it into currently 4 different ERP/accounting systems spread around the world for the different markets, the different locations. So in the UK, the one that serves the UK and most of Europe, we hook it into there, and it gets all the customer specific pricing, and we supplement it also with product quantities, stock quantities.
And I'm guessing, the moment this starts going international, and as we know from sort of previous life and everything like that, my background was supplying into automotive, albeit lumps of metal and stuff like that, but it's a notoriously complex supply chain with multiple stakeholders in multiple countries, and they've each got their own system. And so when you get a client who's going, okay, this is the flow efficiency that we need and the visibility of information through that entire supply chain, it becomes very, very complicated. And what we've also seen, I guess, in that industry is lots of acquisition. So people who had their own system suddenly have merged into a larger group, and then before you know it, you're having to adapt to an end customer who suddenly turn around and say, well, now you're no longer dealing with just one entity, we've gone global ourselves. So I can see how
encounter that a lot.
That would cause issues. And I suppose the sort of summary of that is often you're coming in to make the existing work in a more effective and efficient way, rather than starting from scratch and designing line by line a beautiful system that will never need to be altered in the future. Just doesn't work that way.
Fundamentally, we're not designing or developing software or systems that we're reselling many times to many people. We're doing it specifically for each customer
of what they've already got, and then making it work for them.
Or it's creating a new piece of software for them, but to do very specific things within their business. Our digital services is split into 3 disciplines, really. We've got technical web development. No matter what the customer's industry or objective is, if there's a technicality to it, some functionality, data, then we develop websites that do that kind of thing. At the other end of the scale, because the boundaries get blurred depending on how functional these websites get and who can log in and use them. So at the other end of the scale, somewhere as it grays, you get web applications or just regular custom applications that are installed on a machine. So we develop custom business process applications. And then somewhere in the middle, we have this area of development where it's very much based around functionality and data and manipulating data, but there's no front end to it, there's no face to it, and it's middleware. So we're taking something out of a system the customer might have, and we're putting it somewhere else that they really would like it and have never had the means to put it there or to use it there. So we sort of join the dots in the middle, and sometimes we have to shape the data, do things to the data. It's just a way of gluing things together, and that's an area of our business that we've become quite well known for as well, taking things that I think is join.
As unique as each solution actually is going to be, and as bespoke as it is, the one common theme is these are not websites that are glossy brand sales and marketing typical things. These are functional parts of the business and the process, and it's, as you say, it's bringing a lot of data together in a usable fashion. So it's
trying to increase their market share. By whatever means, it's trying to increase the customer's market share, and it's usually by considering a customer journey, but making it easy to transact with a customer or to get information from that customer.
That's a great way of looking at it, isn't it? It's about the end customer's journey and making that as smooth as possible, and that you're not creating internal barriers that associate their journey becoming more difficult. And if they can do that, then they're going to be, successful in terms of providing that for a wider audience. So with the business end, so how was it affected during lockdown, and what challenges sort of came out of that, that some of those you might have adopted as your new modus operandi moving forward?
Yeah, so we didn't experience any significant drop in our own business, our own income. We saw the spike that a lot of IT companies saw in companies having to invest in laptops. We saw that on the MSP side of the business. We did a lot of work helping businesses to set up VPNs and remote desktop servers so that their colleagues could dial into the office, so to speak, and work from home. So we saw a small change for a small period of time, which was also impacted though by supply chain and availability of this kit. But generally speaking, across the business, we didn't see a great deal of change. Some of the digital clients were a little bit nervous about, where their business was going to go in 6-12 months, because it was all happening around Brexit as well. So some of our customers who are international clients, they had that concern as well. But again, these are businesses that are thinking ahead, like all businesses. They're not just looking at the here and now. They were sort of thinking, well, we'll come out of this, we'll manage that situation, we'll mitigate that risk. So they didn't reduce their investment in the kind of work they were doing with us. If anything, here and there, we saw an increase in investment where they were not seeing an opportunity, but they were reacting to the situation. Internally, we naturally had to begin working from home like every other business did who wasn't key working. So we sort of decamped. We are a technology business, so you'd like to think that stood us in good stead. And we'd already adopted a number of systems. We were already an early adopter of Microsoft Teams and SharePoint Online, for example. We'd already had our own software that we'd developed to manage parts of our business, and that had been with us for a few years prior. But what it really brought into focus for us was the need to make sure that the communication and the information flow didn't drop. And so we heavily customized the way we use Teams and SharePoint behind it. So now, having come out of the pandemic, that is, without a shadow of a doubt, that is one of the core systems we use, Teams, for communication and file storage in a very structured way. We also put various activities in place to try and develop areas of our internal software that we'd just not got round to, really. So we tried to expedite those, and we it's still a work in progress, but we integrated our own software with the Microsoft 365 platform so that, when activities were happening in the software, when somebody was doing something or a record was being updated of a certain nature, we were pinging messages into the correct place in Teams, the correct team, the correct channel, messaging the correct people or groups of people, so that there's that information flow, just that knowledge of what's going on in the business. And that's been fantastic, to be honest, because as much as now that we're all back in the office by and large, as much as you have those conversations that can be overheard again, so that there's an element of everybody being kept in the loop by extension. The fact that you can't avoid these messages pinging at you in Teams when something specific to you occurs, then that's really valuable to us.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head with so many different things. That as a majority, you're back in the office, but I'm guessing that this confidence acquired from flow of information and seeing that does work has actually negated some of the geographical need for people to be always in the office, and that they can potentially work remotely. There's going to be times where they need to be in the office because it's all hands on deck and part of a project that just makes more sense. And I think people get that human interaction, which is as important in terms of engaging and feeling part of an organization. God forbid we go entirely, no one goes into an office ever more, and we never do any face-to-face meetings ever again. That's a world that I wouldn't really want to do business in. But at the same time, once you've got confidence that people can be trusted, that they can still do the work in their own environment and then supply the pertinent information so that everyone else can take that information and keep moving forward with a project or a program, then that starts to make more sense, doesn't it? I'm guessing. So has that eased any of the pressures? I know from previous conversations we've had that one of the challenges that you've had as an industry is getting people that are qualified, that are developers, especially on that side rather than the MSP side. But is that being alleviated at all, or not so much? Is it just a shortage of qualified developers, full stop, worldwide?
It's not so much. It's not so much. There are going to be businesses out there that are software development businesses that could benefit more from remote working. For us, the fact that we've got the tools to allow it is a benefit, but in actual fact, one of the negatives we saw of remote working in the technical disciplines of the business was that during the lockdowns, the communication that goes on just by virtue of sitting next to colleagues, competent colleagues who can have a conversation and spitball something or answer a question, that was lost, because with the best will in the world, Teams and Zoom don't fill that space. You know, nobody wants to spend all day tapping out Slack messages or Teams messages to get an answer. And nobody wants to try calling somebody to find that they're actually in a meeting, they're otherwise engaged, or they don't pick up. It's not the same as being able to stand up, walk over to somebody's desk, have a 2-minute conversation and sit back down, or even have a conversation across the office. So, the technologies and the systems we put in place over the pandemic, they've stayed with us and they help us. And some of the developers now work from home a couple of days a week. But what we found is that we must have continuous and repeatable communication going on in the office for the projects not to suffer. It's got nothing to do with work ethic, trust, or anything of that nature. It's just that these people need to be able to bounce ideas off each other when they need guidance, when they need a second opinion, when they need to talk something through as a concept as to how to write a piece of code. And the same is true on the MSP side, to be honest, because the guys there, they're working on support tickets or projects for customers, and there is collaboration all the time, you know. So yes, you can try and achieve some of it through systems, but it's not the same as being physically present with each other. You also lose the culture. You know, I think our culture suffered.
It's a difficult balancing act, because it was Stephen M.R. Covey who was saying about this, but the world has changed, the world of business has changed, how we do business has changed, the workplace has changed, and the workforce has changed. Other than that, everything's still the same.
Exactly.
So exactly. We're in a learning curve. It's changed. We haven't. We're having to adapt. There'll be bits that we hang on to. There'll be bits that we don't so much. So 22 years in the making. You've got two sides of the business. As you say, there's a comfortable level of business on both. It's a nice even split. You're not too many eggs in one particular basket. What's next for Contedia? Where do we see you heading in the next couple of years?
We need to continue to work on our internal systems and improve the efficiency of how we work internally, because of how complex the business has become. That's a given, because if you look at our business on the MSP side, for example, a large part of our offering is that we say to a customer, okay, we'll charge you this much for the year and we'll give you all of this support when you have a problem. There's a lot of proactive work that goes on, but basically we're here when you have a problem. Well, the problem with that business model is that you have to be there when they need you. It's not good enough to say, oh, well, we can fit you in 2 weeks, 2 months. So managing our systems internally is a big thing for us. But in terms of leveraging opportunities as a business and growing, we've seen a great deal of opportunity to grow the digital side of the business. The IT MSP side, we're finding new clients, but the majority of SMEs have a relationship of sorts with another MSP, maybe. It's surprising sometimes that we find great companies that simply haven't got a relationship, but by and large, it's a competitive marketplace. Where we win clients on that side of the business is because others seem to fail to do a very good job, and it's as simple as that. On the digital side, though, digital transformation is a phrase that keeps getting bandied around, attached to grant funds and things like that. But the reality is, there's so much digital transformation to occur. It's not about having a new flashy website, and it's not about investing in a single piece of line of business software. It's about looking at your business saying, in an ideal world, how would it run? You know, if that key employee goes tomorrow, can we do their job? So it's about looking at how you can transform the areas of your business that there isn't an app for, that there isn't a piece of software for, and take the knowledge out of the people and put it into systems so that you can redeploy their skill sets to do things even better still. Automate what you can automate. So there's a huge opportunity for us there, but it's the problem we have is really getting the message across, finding the right kind of potential clients who understand what they want to do and they understand the opportunities, when perhaps only when they've been shown what the opportunities are, and they're not afraid of the journey, the investment into that. So it's just identifying those clients and then getting the message across that this exists, this industry exists. You know, it's there to plug the gaps.
And it's fascinating because, you know, there's lots of people who've gone on about, oh yeah, you know, we need a more efficient solution. And for years, if it was manufacturing, it was MRP, and then it was ERPs, and it was meant to use the whole supply chain. The biggest challenge with that is the systems were far more advanced than the people operating them. So there's lots of driver error. There was lots of these scenarios of just going, it doesn't do this, and they're going, well, it does, but you're just not using it, or you've not set it up. And there was whether people hung on to too many of their internal processes when they've implemented this, or seen it as a Hail Mary pass and just gone, oh, we'll change everything. We'll just now run everything through this brilliant system. Reality is it doesn't work like that. So lots of people adopted systems over the last 10, 15 years or whatever. They've made them work, but actually when you look at it, it's just a mash of, as you say, spreadsheets and whatever, hopefully put into one place, but probably only half the people are using it in the first place. So
the number of times we win business from potential clients who basically they have very, very competent, sometimes industry vertical, as you say, manufacturing systems. But two things either happen. Either the software has been designed to be generic and resold many, many times. It's still aligned to the industry, but it's not aligned to that customer, that business. So the business sort of says, well, we don't like the way you do that, so we'll do it over here in some spreadsheets. So then when they find that there's an opportunity to create a small system that just does that part of it the way they do it as a business, they'll buy into that, and we'll hook it into the other system. So there's, you know, we're a single source of information. That's common because quite often you get big systems, ERPs and so on, that are oversold at the point of sale by these big companies that are reselling big systems. They're showing you the world, but the implementation is really narrow. And to get what you saw in the demonstration would mean hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of investment just to customize what you're already paying for as well. Been
there as I think I've shared with you offline and things like that. It happened to us, and you know, 9 years in the development or launch of a product that hadn't been even supported for 5 years by the time we got around to launching it. So So it's
worth pointing out that
it didn't work in practice. So
absolutely, it's fitness for purpose, and it's worth pointing out that there are big businesses out there executing projects like the kind of projects we do for clients. So it's not just this middle tier of SMEs that benefit from it. Quite the opposite. It's a point of business where they have sufficient problems, sufficient pain to want to solve it, and are prepared to make some investment, some commitment into the solution. But then it goes all the way up to corporate, because you've got companies like Apple who are using custom applications within their business. They're running on Oracle, but they've got custom applications that are running key parts of their business because they're flexible, they're dynamic, they can change them as the processes change. So yeah, it does fit all sizes of business, just not necessarily across the enterprise. It's just solving pockets of problems.
A very interesting point, and possibly, you know, as a closing point or a closing thought on this, my association with what you do has, from the ill-informed, been this is something that enterprise does, not this is available for medium and SME, genuine SME kind of businesses. I'm guessing the digital side, the development side, micro businesses, it's not going to be for them. They're going to have an off-the-shelf little something that
you can use a lot of tools very well.
But you are in a sweet spot where, as you say, there are some massive global IT systems based development companies doing this at enterprise level. But that leaves a massive gap in the significant proportion by volume of the market where there is opportunity to make it work for somebody, and the pain that they're currently going through, there is a solution. They can get out of this. It's just you've got to know that there is help available, and you don't have to be, whatever size, of corporation to be able to access it. So that's a great way of thinking about it. So it's bringing us towards the end of the interview. We've covered quite a bit of stuff, but is there anything that we've not covered, or that you're suddenly thinking, well, yeah, I'd like to express that? Or
no, I mean, I think one of the questions you sort of proposed you may ask in the interview at the very end was, if you had one piece of advice for other businesses. Well, I still class ourselves as a work in progress. We're a prototype. I don't know at what point we'll become production ready, but 22 years in, I think that the thing that served us best has been our attention to the customer, our genuine focus on having a partnership. And it comes from a conservative mindset at heart, where you don't want to lose a customer. So by virtue of that sort of rule in your personality, you want to do right by the customer and make sure that they get what they need. So, the one piece of advice for small businesses is, no matter whether you're sales heavy and you're focused on making sales or not, be genuine and execute what you say you're going to execute. Do a good job. If you say on your marketing and your advertising that you're a very good supplier in whatever capacity, be that supplier, because then the customers stay, and then you can build on that. Otherwise, you're just transacting all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're chasing your tail, and that's great advice. And, I would echo that for any people in business starting out or still starting out 22 years later, or however you view it. We can always be focused on that client journey, and it's striking the balance between being subservient and actually saying, okay, how can we work in partnership together rather than subservience or servitude, where it's one dimensional. It's got to go both ways, and people will stick with you because they enjoy partnering with you, not just transacting and buying off you.
They trust you and they have confidence in you, and they'll stay with you.
Absolutely. So brilliant advice, and really enjoyed that, Tim. And as if you're watching this, you may know that Tim and I have known each other, certainly before this interview. So we're not going into it cold. So there is a lot of information that we know about each other's businesses and where we've come from and things like that we've not gone through today. But hopefully you've got a really good idea of what Contedia is all about. And I do thank you, Tim, for sharing the journey so far. And may there be at least another 22 years to come. So,
I don't know about
that. Fantastic.
We'll see.
All that remains to be said is, if you're wanting to share your business information, if you're wanting to record your own spotlight interview, just get in touch. When we post these out, when we do the newsletter, put it onto YouTube and LinkedIn and things like that, then there will be links to the whole video. There'll be snippets. There'll also be how to get in touch and how to book in your own, so you can showcase your own business and promote it to the wider audience. So thanks again to Tim for joining us, thank you for everybody for watching another of our Business Spotlight interviews. We'll see you soon. Take care.